She had a lot of names because she was married quite a few times, as you will find out tonight.
Nona, Mary, and Fillmore.
Mary Baker Eddy. There she is. Don't. You know, after I read about her more, she looks dogmatic. I know. And I'm going to tell you, though, after I read about her, no, I know, but we don't know the whole story. And I didn't really get into her and Emma Curtis that much. I mostly stayed with her. And when I went to the Christian Science site, it was like so glowing, and I said, I can't get my information from there because it's going to be all like biased, you know, so I tried to get it from different places. So anyway, she was a very powerful woman. She wrote a lot all her life and obviously taught and was considered a religious leader, and of course the founder of Christian Science. And her famous book is Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures. Now, I've never read it, so I can't tell you, but that's the book. That is the book that they read from. And it was published in 1875, and she founded the Church of Christ Scientists, which today is worldwide. Her international newspaper launched in 1908, the Christian Science Monitor. It's still a leading newspaper, and you can go online and read stuff from it and read about the healings. Yeah. So she was a very powerful woman. And her beginnings were very difficult. She had a really abusive father. He was a Calvinist, like really righteous, religious, person, and they had a very difficult relationship apparently, and he condemned her a lot. And she was born on a farm in Bow, New Hampshire. I've never heard of. She was the youngest of Mark and Abigail Baker's 6 children. Her education, because she was sick all the time, and it didn't say what she had, but I'm assuming it was consumption because that's all they ever had. So she was always sick, and she would have temporary relief, and then she would relapse again. And so she missed a lot of school, and she ended up being self-educated, and her parents educating her. And like I said, the Calvinists, I guess, believe in predestination. So, she was predestined to be sick, apparently. Mary rebelled, and why does that look weird? Is that how you spell rebelled? Okay, anyway, rebelled. She rebelled against the Calvinists, and she turned to the Bible on her own for hope and inspiration about her life and her illness. So, but I thought she looks really kind of like European, doesn't she? Like she doesn't, yeah. She almost looks like me when I was a little girl. Anyway, she had a very sad life in a lot of ways. She lost a lot of people in her life. In December 1843, she married a promising young building contractor. His name was George Glover, and they moved to the Carolinas, but he died right before their son George was born. So that's her with her baby. And she went back to her parents in New Hampshire, and then her mother died. Now, this is the sad part of the story. She was still suffering from her own illnesses, and she didn't have her mother to help her with her kid. So she ended up sending her son away. She sent him to live with someone else, a family nurse and her husband, and through a bunch of misfortunes. And in fact, at one point, it reminded me of you, Rob. They told her son was dead. And he wasn't. And she did end up being reunited with him when he was in his 30s. But she kind of lost him. They just kind of took him away, and then she never got him back again. So that was sad, too. And then she lost her mother. And she married this guy named Daniel Patterson, who was a dentist, and he was like a philanderer. And anyway, screwed around. I know, that's why I didn't feel so antagonistical against her, because I learned more about her. So, and she was really pretty, actually. He abandoned her, and then they ended up, she divorced him on grounds of desertion. But all through this time, she was still suffering from illness. She was constantly suffering from illness. So she tries to find healing. And during that day, I guess they had something called hydrophy, which was a water cure, and homeopathy. And she was going to doctors. She was doing everything. And then she learned about these unmedicated pellets known as placebos, and it doesn't. She never did get healed until she turned to. You'll see in a minute, but she concluded. She started. She was studying. She was reading the Bible. She was reading everything she could get her hands on, and she believed that people's beliefs played a powerful role in the healing process. So while she was investigating, she still the Bible, and she felt like the healing modality was within the Bible. She sought help. She met
Emma's good friend, Phineas Quimby.
yeah, Emma's good friend, wasn't Emma's? Oh, Emma's. Oh, Emma. Oh, yeah. Anyway, so she heard about Phineas Quimby. Now, this is where the whole controversy started, and they don't talk about this on her site. You'll find this in a book that Melissa has and I have here, Spirits and Rebellion. And in Phineas Quimby's writings, you'll find it. But she did go to Phineas Quimby. Her health improved, but it relapsed. And she says in the research that I did that she did talk to him a lot about his healing modality, and she thought it was divine healing, but she concluded that his technique depended largely on his vigorous personality and his training in hypnosis rather than on some divine principle. So she walked away from him. But the controversy is that she took his method of healing and plagiarized it. And if you read anything about him in his biography, that's what we'll say. But she will never tell you that. She would just say, oh, yeah, I talked to him, but I do my own thing, right? The family, I think the family did after. Yeah. So, but they did not win anything. It was just, She look at her now. She's got her hair cut.
She still has the part down the middle, but everything's
I know.
good.
She's very stern looking, right? Like kind of very severe. Oh, I don't know about that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what her eating disorder was. Okay. So here we go. So she had a turning point when she fell on the ice. She fell on the ice. Quimby had died, so she couldn't go to him. So she turned to the Bible. And apparently the account is that she was reading the Bible, and then all of a sudden she felt well. She was healed by reading the Bible and Jesus' method of healing. Eventually, she referred to this as the moment she discovered Christian Science. And I picked that quote over on the side. Jesus established what he said by demonstration, thus making his acts of higher importance than his words. He proved what he taught. This is the science of Christianity. Jesus proved the principle which heals the sick and casts out error to be divine. So what's interesting about this to me is Phineas Quimby said he was doing the healings of Jesus too. I mean, remember when we studied him, he said he was using Jesus' healing technique. What is Jesus' healing technique? He sees everything whole and perfect, right?
It's done into as you
The
believe.
Father within, the idea that God is within us and that God is perfect. So it makes sense. Mary, this was a quote from what I read. Mary Patterson could not explain to others what had happened, but she knew it was the result of what she had read in the Bible. Her conviction grew in the coming weeks and months as setbacks were met with even stronger proofs of spiritual healing. This led to 9 years of intensive scriptural study, healing activity, and teaching, and culminating in the publication of Science and Health in 1875. In this book, she marked out what she understood to be the science behind this healing method. As she saw it, the healing words of Jesus were divinely natural and repeatable. So there you go. So there's her famous book, Science and Health, and Key to the Scriptures. Okay. She taught, just like Emma Curtis Hopkins, she taught to hundreds of people, men and women, and they started their own healing practices across the U.S. And then she married one of her students, kind of like Patrick and me. And that's where she got her final name, Asa Gilbert Eddy, who gave her unending support and apparently had a really good relationship, and he helped her in her work.
Until, of course, he died of consumption in 1882.
Yeah. He died. They were married in 77 and he was gone in 1882. She had a lot of loss in her life, a lot of loss.
I'm just laughing because all of a sudden I'm thinking, all of a sudden a little light went on my head. Black Widow. All the men seem to die when she marries them. Oh.
Black Widow. Christian churches of the day wouldn't embrace Christian Science, so she started her own church. Good for you, girl. Church of Christ Scientist, established to commemorate the word and works of our Master, which should reinstate primitive Christianity and its lost element of healing. Well, she had a point. Back in those days, they weren't really talking about healing. They were too busy condemning people, right? Yeah. And telling them they were sinners and why you're sick because you're a bad person, and all of that. So it makes sense that she would have been cast aside. She founded Massachusetts Metaphysical College, where she taught her classes until 1889, when she closed the institution to focus on major revision of science and health. That's the book. Her work progresses. Okay, in 1888 in Boston, a reading room. Now they have those still now, the Christian
We have
Science
one
reading
here.
rooms.
Did you know
I think
that?
we have one here.
Yeah, we do.
And other publications opened. In 1894, Christian Scientists moved into their own first church building under built under Eddie's direction. So there's their first church. Wow. And I know, right? It's pretty much looks like a cathedral, right? In 1895, she published a church manual establishing guidelines that are followed to this day by lay ministry in Christian Science churches around the world. To this day. I used to sing in a Christian Science church. They hired me to lead them in their hymns. And they only read out of her book. That's all they did. And then we'd sing some songs that were words that she wrote, I think. And then that's it. That's why she's not considered New Thought, is because there's no other revelation. It's only Mary Baker Eddy and her book, and it's closed at the top. So she's considered part of the New Thought movement, but she's not considered part of New Thought because she stayed here and they started to branch out, as we see in Divine Science, Unity. They started reading other things. They were taking from the scriptures, from the Hindu books, from everything, right? From the Greeks, from everything. They were open at the top, and she was closed. So, did somebody have their hand up? Yeah.
So, okay, this whole thing about Christian Science is that you don't go to doctors or whatever, right? But if it's science, why, when the medical industry, became that they could actually start healing people more? I can understand doing this in the 1800s when there wasn't any. So why do they say?
Well, my understanding is that when they use the word science, they're using it like we use. They're saying that there's a science to healing, that it's cause and effect. There's a science, right, that you can prove it. That's why she called it Christian Science, and it's was obviously based in the Christian teaching. I know, but they didn't believe in that. They just don't. They don't believe in it. They just believe that they're going to be healed by the inner power of the divine within them, and by going to that place, just like what he was saying about Divine Science. But they're very. I kind of have judgment about it. I'll say I do, because they will let people die before they take them to a doctor. Now, I don't think all Christian Sciences are like this, because we have one in our church.
We have two people that have, one that comes here now and one that used to.
And what'd she tell
And
you?
Timmery said, it's Timmery.
Do you know Timmery?
Yeah, they know, with the little boys. She's not now, but she was raised Christian Science, and she said, I always have a hard time because she goes, it was horrible as a child because everybody would be going, you don't go to the doctors. My mom says you don't go to the doctors, but that wasn't true for but they were raised Christian Science. But she said, but we did go to the doctor. I said, but Timmery, most of them did not go to the doctor.
That's not what they taught.
And the other person has he's the one I've actually used a couple times, very steeped in Christian Science. And he's the one that put his hand literally on a burner to the point that it would be, to sizzle your hand. And he immediately, because he said, because I was trained in Christian Science, that immediately I went into the affirmative, whatever that they do with it.
Well, it's the omnipresence
and he said
that they're
not
talking
one
about.
thing was on his hands. But he said that, but he didn't stay with it because he said these are rare occasions. That they're instant, what do you call the instantaneous healing?
Instantaneous remission. What is it
Yeah,
called?
yeah.
Spontaneous remission.
remission.
Yeah.
So his was a moment, an absolute moment, but he was a Christian Science for a lot of years. And they don't smoke, they don't drink, they don't go to doctors, they don't do, they don't do anything. I mean,
Like, it's the true Christian scientist is not going to go to a doctor, is not going to do those things that Patrick's saying. I'm sure just like any other religion, there's some that practice all the way and some that don't. But it's not what they profess. I mean, I started reading little different articles about healing, and I read this one lady who, you okay? Yeah. Okay. I read this one lady who had been in a horrible car accident, and she left the hospital. Her and her husband prayed together, and they decided it was better to go home and heal, and they actually walked out of a hospital when they should have been in a hospital, and she healed. So, I'm not going to argue with their success. They're very apparently they are powerful healers, and they have powerful healing. So
when you don't have a choice.
I know. I guess when you don't have a
think about
choice.
it. If something falls on you and you're not going to go to the doctor, you immediately go where my friend went. He went to immediate.
Back in her day, you didn't have a choice, but now you do. So it's kind of like
Yeah, I see.
Well, that's why we don't teach that. We teach that you go to a doctor, and you go and you pray too. You do both. You're going to be better off if you're out of pain trying to, to work on your spirituality than if you're sitting there, in excruciating pain. Okay, so anyway, but it is true they just read from her books. Her book. Eddie went on to found Christian Science Publishing Society in 1898, which became the publishing home for numerous publications launched by her and her followers. So there you go. Yeah, I know, right? She did a lot. She was driven.
87.
She was driven. Mary Baker made her discovery of Christian Science in midlife at a time when women could not vote. I love this. It was inspirational. And were generally barred from pulpits, seminaries, and the medical profession. It was at age 87, responding to the yellow journalism, that she started the Christian Science Monitor, where people bad-mouthing her and stuff, designed to injure no man but to bless all of mankind. She passed in December 3rd, 1910, and tributes appeared in the newspaper worldwide, including the Boston Globe. She did a wonderful and extraordinary work in the world, and there is no doubt that she was a powerful influence for good. And so, yeah, that's her tomb.
Boy,
And
she did things big.
I know, right?
Wow.
It would be worth doing more investigation into her. I'm just giving you a brief overview, but I would like to know if they charge for their healings. I don't know if they do. Not their healings, but their
But their
counseling
time.
sessions. I know that they don't in Unity. They don't.
Yeah.
But I don't know anything about it. Yeah, look it up.
She's our Google girl.
I've always wanted to go to just to have the experience of going to a Christian Science practitioner, just to see what they do.
Right.
I know that when you study to be a practitioner, you study the work of Joel Goldsmith, and he wrote the book Practicing the Presence. And he was healed by a Christian Science practitioner, and his work is very that, it's very within and the practicing the presence. Obviously, it's called practicing the presence, practicing the omnipresence, and really being at one with God and everything. And he was healed by a Christian Science practitioner. I remember reading that, and was a Christian Scientist. Anyway, so some of her quotes. That's their emblem there: heal the sick, raise the dead, cast out demons, cleanse the lepers. I know, right? So she thought everybody should do that. Disease is an experience of so-called mortal mind. It is a fear made manifest on the body. Spirit is the real and eternal. Matter is the unreal and temporal, which is what we read about. You can see where Emma Curtis Hopkins comes from, right? So the only difference is the reason there's all the rumors about, he even said it, she got her miffed. It's just because Emma was more open at the top, and she was bringing in other philosophies and other modes. Right, yeah, she just, and Mary Baker wouldn't have had that. She wanted everything. It's Mary Baker, it's Christian Science, that's all it is. There is no other. And the Bible, obviously, she believed in the Bible. Health is not a condition of matter, but of mind. True prayer is not asking God for love. It is learning to love and to include all mankind in one affection. Prayer is the utilization of the love wherewith he loves us. Yep. Yeah. Very Jesus-based from the Christian Science Journal. Christian scientists see prayer as both preventative and curative, and is usually based on the affirmation of God's power and love rather than supplication. They consider Jesus' command to heal the sick to be a natural, indispensable part of all Christianity. So we're supposed to be healing the sick. That's what we're supposed to be doing. Miss Eddy posed a question to the students in her class in 1898. What is the best way to do instantaneous healing? The students replied reasonably well, but she finally and fully answered her own question for them by saying, I will tell you the way to do it. It is love. Just live love, be it love, love, love. Do not know anything but love. We could see where Emma got this all from, right? Be love. There is nothing else. That will do the work. It will heal everything. It will raise the dead. Be nothing but love. They what? They do charge. Yeah, they probably do. The only ones I know that aren't allowed to charge are the Unity prayers. How else can they get those? I know, right? Well, people should try. Anyway, we're going to go into Emma in a minute. Any questions? It was just...
The one thing is that in our studies, all those years of studies, they tossed Mary to the side. And now I look at it, I'm so glad we're doing this because, I was always confused because I thought Ernest got some of his, got the whole idea behind spiritual mind treatment from Emma, who was birthed from...
No, he got it from Mary Baker.
From Mary Baker, right. So... I just always think that, you can't throw the whole baby out with the bathwater,
Well, think about it, too. Back in those days, to have a woman that strong and that opinionated and that, sure of herself would have turned people off.
She's like Barbara Streisand.
You know what I'm saying? Don't you think?
In the Prince.
Yeah. So I think the fact that she really believed in what she was doing and the fact that she really... You guys. Right. So... For that time, so she would have a lot of bad, press on her, because they weren't used to women speaking up for themselves and being, strong and saying this is what I believe and
But Emma Curtis Hopkins came from that. I mean, Emma Curtis Hopkins was also a very strong woman and very, especially for that time, but yet she was more open at the top as opposed to Mary Baker.
Right.
Mary's way or no way.
Yeah.
All right. So the only thing I want to do with Emma tonight is I'm interested to hear what you have to say about these denials. Was it? I know, it always does. Does anybody want to tell me what they got out of it? Where's the other mic? I know. You have to read it a few times. It's really. All right, so I'm sure.
It got really confusing because...
Let's keep it simple, though. Let's try our best.
So it's all about, the denial of... All right, where did I have this? I have this written down.
What are denials and what is the purpose?
Okay, so there is no evil, there is no matter, there is no absence of life, substance, or intelligence, an omnipresent God. There is nothing to hate, there is no sin, sickness, or death. Okay, so I understand that. And so I apply it to my life, and I go, okay, so I have had some progress with healing and all this other stuff, but then there's pukas, there's little areas where,
Yeah,
I still, I'm still living in a physical body, and I have a pain, and it's like, oh my God, because it's been there, I'm so conditioned.
right.
So I guess, it brought back the whole thing. Okay, so there is no evil, there is no matter, there is...
Do you understand what she's saying, though?
Yes, it's like saying that there's you have to say that there's an absence. There is no absence of love or wholeness or whatever.
Right.
But we still live in matter, and so we have to
Right.
we live in it, but not of it. So it's like I'm getting this feeling that we have to be, the veil between matter, matter and spirit is very, very thin. So we have to be able to navigate between those two really easily.
Right. I think I think the way I take it is obviously Ernest Holmes would have differed. I mean, if you read the quotes and everything, right?
Yes, yeah.
He wouldn't say there was no matter. But what is matter? Matter is energy. Now we know like matter is energies. But what she was trying to say is not, okay, I don't know this. This is my interpretation because I don't know that we can ever really, we have to interpret it our own way. The way I interpret it is that if we focus our attention on matter, then we are not going to be able to heal because we'll think we're trying to heal matter. So if we say there's no matter, because that it's not that it doesn't exist, but that if we focus on the love and the perfection of God, and we say there is no matter, let's say we have a hurt hand, and I go, well, there's no matter. She's saying it's going to heal immediately because I'm not believing in the matter. That's the way I took it.
If you focus on the spirit, it'll permeate matter,
Right.
and matter will become.
But I think, so I think if we looked at it from a quantum physics standpoint, which I think she was, like a quantum physicist, that she's saying, she's really saying, at least that I'm interpreting it, that it's just energy. It's energy, but if matter, it doesn't really exist, it's energy. It's energy, and energy can heal, but it'll instantaneously heal. That's the way I get it.
Yeah.
So, but go ahead. I want to hear what you have to say.
You have like a whole,
No.
You want to go first?
Well, I just said it. Well, okay. So then, this vitalizing faiths paragraph, 159 too.
150. Are you talking about? Oh wait, I've got them.
Well, it was. Yeah, I thought it was really good.
Wait a minute. Are you talking?
Yeah,
oh,
that
there
one.
it is.
Okay, I mean, I'm jumping ahead, but it's like
It's okay.
that spirit is incarnated in us. Affirmations and denials are for the purpose of vitalizing faith, for the purpose of converting thought to a belief in things spiritual. So it's kind of like you have to have faith. Okay, I've got a pain here, but if I focus on God in me and being whole, then it's all going to be taken care of.
That's it.
Right. So that's why it's so powerful to say right where the pain is, God is, because if the God is right where the pain is, and you can really actually meditate on that and contemplate that and focus on that, it changes the whole. I mean, really, actually, really, really go into the silence and do that. It does heal. I mean, I've felt it in my own body. When I have a pain and I actually go into it. Yeah. Right. So.
but isn't that more of the Ernest Holmes way?
Yes.
Definitely more Ernest Holmes, not
No.
yeah.
No.
Emma
And that's what they
Ernest.
ask. Is what's the
Okay.
difference?
Yeah.
Denials denials. If you do an argumentative treatment, the denial is saying, in God there can be no pain because God is
Right.
perfection. So you're denying in God there could be no cancer because cancer
Yeah.
cannot exist in God because there is no illness in God. There is only perfection. So that's the kind of denials that Ernest Holmes was doing, where you bring the condition in
Right.
to argue for the truth,
Yes.
right? But
And for her, I think the conviction of absence that you had there kind of explained to me. That's how I was able to get her, is when you're saying, oh, I am pure love, by acknowledging that you are going after the pure love, then you're acknowledging somewhere, somehow, the lack of love that you have. And that's the reason why
Right,
you're
right,
getting
right.
it. Yeah, and that's why she goes into the negativity of there is no evil, there is no matter, because that's the denial,
right.
which comes from that lack when you are trying to affirm or try to declare or affirm something in your life. And
Right. Well, she
it
said
was
like
so
she said,
convoluted.
she said, as soon as you say there is only good,
Right.
you
You
realize
know
you don't have it.
That's right.
And
Like,
so-
if
right.
you feel like you ought to have
Right.
good, that just means you just recognize that you don't have it.
Right.
You say there is no absence of good.
Right.
There is no absence of good.
There is no absence of good. There is no
Yes.
reality in matter. There is no, right. There is
Yeah.
no evil. There is
Right.
no, but it's just saying, because if everything is, if God is good, and if that's what you're going to focus on, that's what you're going to see. That's what you're going to experience.
That's where Ernest
And
Holmes
you're even
went.
good, yeah, you're going to, yeah, that he took it further.
took it
You're even
further.
going to, but I think that's what she's saying too, because she only focused on the love and on the good. And therefore she said the other stuff can't exist because God knowing itself can only know itself as good. It wouldn't register as evil. Wouldn't,
Yeah.
if you, it's like, well, you spot it, you got it type of thing.
It was-
Sue wants to say something. I know, it's, I don't want to go down the rabbit hole too deep.
Of course I do.
Like I said, Emma would be like a whole course that you would have to take,
I-
right?
That's what I kept thinking.
Right.
Maybe she would say things, I don't know.
Well, nobody can hear you.
Oh, it doesn't matter. It's just that she was very deep, and I thought you'd just take like a whole semester.
Yeah, I mean, there's classes on her, but go ahead.
So, what I read into this is that denials are putting away of the ideas that interfere with what we want. And we as humans, all of us, have our own prejudices, wills, and personal dispositions. Emma said that anytime we refuse to believe a statement, we deny it. We are making a denial. The purpose is to get clear about our personal belief about good, God, the oneness with God. And that we use denials to negate our own thinking and our experiential filters. Science's mind says we do not look at what we don't want, which is physical, material, poverty, illness. We give no power to conditions and deny any limitations within our own minds.
Right, and people will say that you're in denial, and that's one thing about religious science that we have to make sure we're clear on it. You do look at the condition, and you go, I'm sitting next to someone, they're riddled with cancer, but then when you treat, you have to turn away from it. Right. You have to turn away. Like Ernest Holmes didn't even want to sit next to anybody, really, and look at them, like when he was trying to cure the person that had the alcoholism. I don't know if we told you that story. He had to go into the other room so he didn't see him, and actually he went into treatment all night long. So you're turning away from it to go to the absolute, because if it's sitting there in front of you,
Right.
and you're focusing on it, then how are you going to do it, right? So, but even then, you can look at somebody. I've sat with people that are sick, and I can look at them and still feel their wholeness, and still know that they're whole, and they're turning away from the condition doesn't mean you don't look at it either. You could sit with somebody that's sick and still say, "You're whole," right? Isn't that what Jesus did, right? So don't get it confused like you're denying the person's sick, because people
Right.
will say that, and then I'm like, no, we're not denying that our friend Terry right now is, experiencing cancer and that he's suffering right now. We're not denying that, but we do know the spiritual man, Terry, is perfect. He's never been touched by cancer at all, right? But
Sometimes I think the denial, as a non-licensed practitioner, is my own thinking. That's what I'm going to deny. Anything in my own thinking that doesn't see perfect clarity of the truth of our spiritual nature.
right,
Yeah.
right. That is what it is.
But as part of our reading, I think we learned that you can use denial as a way to strengthen your conviction towards what you're trying to affirm or trying to receive.
If you sit with the idea that there is no matter, I was doing it today with Terry in my mind. It was like, it just like took it and just disintegrated it into nothing. Like, so in my mind, like I could see that you could just do that by saying there's no matter, because it's just disintegrates into just energy. It's just energy. So matter is only what's kind of hardened because we've put so much focus on it, and it's so focused, our consciousness is so focused on it that we've created the matter. But we know that behind all of it is just energy, and the energy is what can shift. That's why we can have healings. That's why our lives can change in an instant if we think differently of the way we look at something, right? So I think it's good stuff.
There is something I want to say about that, because this has been a week that it's all tied. I was thinking of when, Melissa, when you were talking about the focusing on. And sometimes, I mean, I have to say enough is enough. And that's a denial. Enough is enough. And then what is enough? So enough is enough. I'm done. That's been a couple things I'm done. I'm unplugged and I'm done. Now that's kind of a denial. But then you can't just be done. Then what are you plugging into? It's great on Sunday, the story I had that with the numbers and all my cholesterol, everything went screaming to the numbers that would please my doctor. But the most important thing is, what am I now plugging into? And so what I learned about, and listening to little Joe this week and meditating and a lot of silence, and then this right here is that, yes, we are programmed. And in reality, Christian Science does have a point. I mean, I don't believe in our evolution that it's where it's at right now, but I'm just saying that there is a point. I don't need it because I am the absolute. Illness has no right in my body. It has no right anywhere. But we want to kind of always get what I call the loophole of life. And I think that that's what Reverend Walt has too, that because he's in hospice. So what do you do with that? But we're not walking in and saying that this isn't happening. But what's the most important? And I tried it this week. And I thought, how do I stay in the absolute and then step still in bullshit that's happening in my world, in my community, in my global world? How do I do the two? And we were standing there, listening to him, and I said, how do I do that? How do I have something that doesn't feel well, a dis-ease in my body, mentally or physically? How do I do it? How do I stay? Because we only know two things. We're totally zenned out, and then we're feeling like we're, totally in the world, and then we come back and we're like, oh, man. But so I said, oh, my God, the absolute is here. And I watched it, and it wasn't far from Sunday when I said unplug. Because when I'm not in my past and I'm not in trying to fix something, I'm totally present. And then I can walk and say, there's Peggy, there's Melissa. But I'm still in the present. Right now, I'm still vibrating. And I'm looking at all of you right now, and I'm vibrating from the absolute. And so how do you work in your life? So what? So you're going to walk around vibrating and getting God bumps and glowing or whatever you want. But how do you work it? You work it every time something is doesn't feel right, we go to the absolute, the first cause. But it's invisible. And we're so used to the visible. What's our next rate, and what's happening with the more COVID, and what's happening with this, and who got cancer, and what are we going to do with Terry now that it's in what are we going to do with that? What are we going to do with that? And when I was on the phone with him today, I said, well, I can't even leave you alone for 5 minutes, Terry, without, what are we going to do with you? Because we need to laugh a little bit about it, and sometimes we take our bodies too far, as they say in Ernest Holmes, as they say, oh, how come they're not healing? Because sometimes when you go as far as the veil, that it's easier to just finish it off. And I'm not saying that's Terry. I'm just saying that sometimes I remember my friend so sick, and he says, I know I can turn this around, Patrick. I believe what you're talking about. But it's easier just to go on now. It's like swimming in the river. Either you're in the middle, you're going to go back, you're going to swim across. And he just goes, I know, it's just easier now. I don't want to be Anita Mojani, who's going to end up with 19 tumors that she's got to take. I'm just going the veil. This is easy peasy. That's why our work is to be prayed up. I can't say this enough to people. Patrick, I'm going to tell you something. I'm feeling pretty good now. I'm heading down the rabbit hole, but when I go down the rabbit hole, I'll give you a call. And I'm thinking, dude, stop. Let's pray up now. Let's get all the energy going now so we can use it and we can heal before it gets to the place where it's hard to get back because you have put all your conditions in the doctors and in the tests. And so when the tests don't come out for you, then you go, that's my fate. when all the time we could be doing what we've learned the last 7 weeks that they've been doing. It's like, yeah, I'm programmed, but man, I'm going to learn how to unplug this sucker. I mean, you went through it. You dropped numbers in your stuff, and anyway, it's exciting, but it's also when you love people, you love them, and you want them to get up and walk, or you want them to rise from the dead, or you want them to, and then you sit there and you go, no, we were saying today, what's the best that we can do as leaders? Prove it with ourselves. Prove it with ourselves. Prove when I unplugged, and I did plug, so that we can share it and spit all over everybody. And I'm over here. I will be. But it's okay, I've unplugged from it, everybody. No.
Anyway, I wanted to just go, I just wanted, this is a very helpful thing when somebody says, suppose one is unable to convince himself of the truth of the statement which he makes, how is he going to bring himself to a place of belief? By repeating his affirmation. This is a really good formula, I use it. Dwelling on its meaning, meditating upon the spiritual significance of it until the subjective state of his thinking becomes clarified. We used to use that in mental muscle. What?
Clarity is just so, it's just, for me, clarity when I see something in the clearest mode is where I can do my work in terms of understanding. I don't know. That's the hardest part.
So I had this book on Kindle, and so all the page numbers didn't match. So I was like, okay, this is interesting. So I went, well, I actually bought the book then, but I just looked up denial and deny, like in the index. So I found a new one. I want to read it. Okay. The subjective state of a man's thought decides what is going to happen to him in his objective experience. The subjective state of his thought is the sum total of his thinking and knowing. It is the medium between the relative and the absolute, between the limitless and the conditioned. Whatever is involved in it will evolve. Therefore, when there is no longer anything in our mentality which denies our word, a demonstration will be made. Nothing can stop it, for the law is absolute.
Absolute embodiment. When it doesn't, and people have
And
said
you'll
that,
know it. I call it the click.
what do you do? I had a
And
click.
you're not even necessarily better. I think it's like what happened to Melinda Kramer, or you're going to talk about Myrtle, but she knew she was well. She probably didn't get well immediately, but she knew she was well, and then like it's Anita Marjani, she
Right.
just knew she was well, and then her body started to.
Right.
Right, Mary Baker. She knew when she was sitting there.
And
with the Bible.
somebody will say to us, they'll go, I've already tried that. I've done it. I've prayed 1,000,000 prayers. What am I supposed to do now? I'll pray again. Say it again. The affirmation. I've said it 100 times. Well, I
You're
guess it's 101.
clarifying.
Because here's the deal. This is the turning away part. I said I needed to have abundance in order to do this. I need my home, like with DJ, and it doesn't arrive. Well, then you're going to have to do it again. Because here's the other, either do it again or don't have the house. Because the moment that you turn away from it and you do not admit, or the moment that you're not feeling well and you say, oh shit, this is it, then you go, no, that's not it. I said no. I denied it. Now I need to go back into the absolute. And that's the kind of strength you have to get. But I did it 101 times. You might have to do it 150. Because until you click and until you really believe it, until I really believe it, it's not going to happen. And that's the kind of power we have, which is so wonderful. You don't have to get discouraged. Nobody has to go, I tried. No, try again. But this time, believe again. Not try, believe again. I'm so tired of this. And then what will happen? You'll go, oh, F it. Oh, shit, I just healed.
Right, because you gave
I've
up.
been working too hard.
Let go.
Yeah.
Right.
Let
Does
go,
any-
you let
do
go.
You guys want to share? Do you have something to share?
Emma Curtis Hopkins writes that we can only come to the important logical conclusions of her teachings if we use the denials to get there. Because only in realizing what is not true do we come to find what is true. And in Science of Mind, denials are spoken to have clarity on what is not, so we may have more clarity on what is. It doesn't, Science of Mind does not agree that we must make the denials first or even ever unless we need them.
Yeah, they want to. We want to be able to just, and we will someday. We will be the walking demonstration. Well, I have an idea. A house. I have an idea. Shoes. Oh, what happened to those shoes I saw earlier? Wait. Okay, you're really good.
No, it's not Dr. Peggy. And it kind of simplistically, I kind of looked at this from a practitioner point of view, and I just thought that I would have to turn away or move the thoughts that are in my head and sort of become a conduit to make a connection. Because once I have that conduit and there's a connection, then all of my stuff is in the background. It's not important, and it just gets in the way. And the energy that's coming through me or in my words and my thoughts, because that's what the energy is going to that person that's getting the healing done in a simplistic kind of way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
And they're picking up on it. It's going into the field. Yes. All right. Do you want to start?
Sure.
All your notes are up there.
Right. But are they on
Okay.
They're on there. Myrtle. And I can just say, where's your little clicker?
Here's the clicker. And all your notes are up
So I gave him the young Myrtle and and Charles because they just looks like such a, look at this. They look so pensive. He's like, what are we going to do? Yeah. But let me just tell you about these right out of the, I almost didn't use a PowerPoint because I love the Fillmores. I know, and so I just put a whole bunch of my notes on there so that I could follow them. Because there we go. So this is just some of their basic stuff. Charles Sherlock Fillmore, August 22nd, 1854 to July 5th. They were also older too. Things are getting older now. She was 86, I think he's 92 or something. Unity Church, a church within the New Thought movement with his wife, Myrtle Page Fillmore in 1889. So Charles, but most of you are familiar with Unity, yeah? I mean, just they said Charles became known as American mystic for his contributions to spiritualist interpretation of the biblical scripture. Now, interesting, they'll say it later. A lot of times they'll say, oh, we're cousins. They'll go, oh, yeah, I'm with Unity. But a lot of people come to the island, Unity, they'll come here because they figure we're like cousins. But we are in a way, but you'll see later that there is some difference, and it's always the biblical. And it's how you, and we use biblical too. So Jesus is in everything with the Science of Mind text, but we don't focus on the biblical, kind of like divine science was tonight. You could feel the Bible with divine science. 9 years older. Myrtle, born August 6, 1845, died October 6, 1931. Charles met Myrtle in Texas, and they married in 1881. He was doing a whole bunch of jobs. He was his last one before he took on this entire world of Unity. Unity has something like, at this point, probably more now, but 2 million followers. And 2 million is quite a nice little number. Charles met Myrtle in 1884, the Fillmores moved to Kansas City, Missouri, where now, what is there? Unity Village. Have you ever heard of Unity Village? Wait till you see. Oh, we have to. And it was so funny. I went to Kansas City every single year of my life with no air conditioning in the car. Huh? I know, it's 15 minutes from Kansas City. Well, yeah, it's a big, it doesn't, it's not a secret what's coming next. Unity Village is huge, humongous. It's a school, campus, and it's a convention center. They have everything, a golf course. I went through a whole, I must say, 20-minute virtual tour today, and it was just, I'm like going, that's what I want for CSL Kauai here, and put in some writing stables, and it's just going to be wow. I mean, I have to say, it really ignited me to see what they did with just a penny and a thought and a penny. So Here's what the Unity Faith is. Unity, known informally as Unity Church, is an organization founded by Charles and Myrtle Fillmore in 1889. It grew out of the Transcendentalism, yeah, exactly, this everything we've been studying, right? And became a part of New Thought movement. While it was originally considered as a positive, practical Christianity, once again, we're back at Christianity. It's people who do not want that Christianity, you're sinners and stop it and you deserve everything that happens to taking that same principle that I never think that Christianity, I think they had the right, Jesus had the right idea, but it just was misconstrued. Unity now describes itself as for people who might call themselves spiritual but not religious. They're a little lighter on I mean, Unity is a little bit more Bible-based than they also start with scriptures. If you're a speaker, a lot of Science of Mind ministers and practitioners speak there. If there's rules, like if I went to speak there, they would say, you can do whatever you want, but you need a scripture here, you need one here, and then you need one there, and then do whatever you want. Do whatever you want. You can talk, because they believe what we believe about people and place, our whole philosophy. Unity began as a healing ministry, and healing has continued to be its main emphasis. Unity describes itself as having no particular creed, no set dogma, and no required ritual, which is true. Yeah. They do talks. I mean, no. They talk. They'll talk the theme stuff, but they do always relate it to the Bible. They give talks? Oh, that really wasn't, no. Okay, so I got you the five basic ideas of Unity's belief system. Now, this tells us all. God is the source and creator of all. There is no other enduring power. God is good and present everywhere. Check. Right. We are spiritual beings created in God's image. The Spirit of God lives within each person. Therefore, all people are inherently good. Check. We create our life experiences through our way of thinking. A lot of thinking going on, but what is our new quote?
But a lot of thoughts.
Thoughts are going on, but nobody's thinking. Okay, there is power in affirmative prayer, which can increase a person's connection to God. Yeah, we already have it. That's where we are in our evolution, and where Rita and I in our lineage. We don't really have to do, that's why we say we release our word as law, opposed to the law, which I was trained to do. Knowledge of these spiritual principles is not enough. People must live them. I would say that everything I was looking at with them, they're really big on that. I mean, well, no, but you need to people must live them. You must live your life from what we believe. And that's what they're saying. You can't just talk about it. You got to go out and live it, just like we were just saying earlier. Jesus in healing. Unity emphasizes spiritual healing, prosperity, and the curing of illness by spiritual means. But unity does not reject or resist medical treatments. Unity is accepting of beliefs of others. So, same, right? Jesus. Unity Church followers believe in the divinity of Jesus, but only in the sense that all humans are the children of God and share that divine potential. They believe that Jesus was a master teacher who expressed the divine potential and sought to show others how to do the same. Way shower, right? Unity uses the term Christ to mean the divinity in all people. For them, Jesus is the great example of the Christ in physical form. There is no difference. No, there isn't. There really is no. That's why they say, but their approach would be based a little bit more, bring the Bible in order to get the message across.
The Bible is their book.
Yes, they have affirmative prayer.
They have other writings, but the Bible is, they use the Bible. Yeah, the New Testament probably not. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, we refer to the Bible and passages of
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we can. I mean, as long as you
can.
can.
They have other writings too, but.
Right. They have. Well, they started
Charles
out with.
Fillmore obviously wrote
wrote a lot of books. Organization, individual unity churches are autonomous, each governed by its own board, choosing its minister and seeking affiliation according to guidelines. So does our organization. Minister training, ministerial placement, and educational resources are offered at Unity World Headquarters, which also publishes magazine, books, and pamphlets. To say the least, they have like a a whole publishing company. I mean, they're huge. This organization is huge. The organization Prayer Ministry Silent Unity, a telephone and an email service offers prayer and counseling. Now, let's talk about we do the same, but let's talk about their Silent Unity. It's 150 years old, 24/7. It has never been broken. So there's a room for it. I mean, they've changed locations, but that's not praying. 150 years.
Yeah.
Huh?
Don't we have something, our ministry of prayer with our home office?
Yes, we do. No, it's not
Well,
so much of that.
they ain't sitting there 24/7 just
No,
to
what
let
we're
y'all-
talking about is a building
Yeah.
that somebody's always
no,
in there praying.
What, they take shifts. Like I
A
leave.
physical
and-
body praying for 150 years. Can you imagine what it must feel like?
Hold on. Oh, it's okay. No. They have a prayer chamber that you call in and you say, I need the prayer, and they're constantly praying. So you're in there for an hour or two, right? And then I leave, and then you come in. But they've been doing this for 150 years. Talk about commitment. That's what I'm saying. Woo! Okay, we're trying to get people to clean the building. How are we going to get them there for 100? Trying to get people to clean the floor. What are we talking about? 150 years? Go.
I'm surprised that the Unity Church didn't survive.
Because they didn't have. Well, it
Have
did.
a unity
but
since Suzanne Stover.
Suzanne
they didn't
had
have
the
one.
Unity Church.
When she left, the whole thing fell apart.
Exactly.
Because the people that were, I don't even know how they got it, because they weren't teaching unity. They
No.
weren't preaching unity. They were bringing in all these different people.
Reverend Suzanne, Ron,
She had a successful church.
She had
Unity
a very up to
Church.
200. I think it was 200 people at one point.
She got sick or
She
something.
She had
Oh, I don't know. It
right
was
before,
way before
but
us,
way
but
before us. Because when we came there, it was
there was like 20 people. In
Jasmine
the church.
was
Jasmine.
there, and so Jasmine was more New Age.
Yeah.
And so she would, I mean, nothing wrong, do whatever you want to do.
Unity.
It wasn't unity, it was, yeah. Right, because she had a different approach.
Is there one in Honolulu?
Yes. There's a big one, but some people are saying they're not as happy there with it. There's something, always political, right? Okay, so, boom. Myrtle becomes, these are some special interests I just wanted to share with you. Myrtle becomes very ill. This is in her beginnings. She thinks there is nothing she can do about it because she has been sick since she was a little girl. Here's something I want to cut off right here. When we go through something for a long period of time, it becomes a way of life. So for all of us in our day now, if you haven't had money for a long time, you keep falling into the poverty thing. People who are in the hood, people are out, it becomes a way of life. There's nothing more. Until we get in and allow them to have an idea that might shift that. So Charles and Myrtle go to a class taught by Eugene B. Weeks. Myrtle leaves this talk with a stronger faith in God and a new way to pray. She says, I am a child of God, and therefore I do not inherit sickness. When she says this, she believes she is going to get better. What is she doing? She believes she's going to get better. She had a click. What would
affirmation that worked for her?
Right. What would happen if I didn't inherit this? Because she believed, not only inherited means I've always had it. It's been going on forever. It's just mine. I just got it, and it's mine. So then, within 2 years, Myrtle does get better. Her family and friends are excited, and they start praying too. I love that. And they start praying too. Woo, she's been sick, and what are we going to do? Now look at this. Let me ask you guys a question. You guys isn't proper political anymore, but you ladies, let me ask you something. Why do you think it took 2 years? Why did it take 2 years? Why didn't it happen the next day? And the room's a hush. No. Why do you think?
Well, what I understood about her healing was that she healed when that statement, when she embodied that statement, but she did not get well right away because her body had to catch up. She didn't have like an instantaneous, spontaneous. She had a mental healing, and then her body had to catch up. Not everybody does that. Some people have a mental healing and it's instantaneous, but that's what I'm understanding.
No, and that wasn't a question like it was bad. It was like, so that when people say, God, it was 2 years, well, she's programmed for a long time. She had to undo her program, and she didn't have people that we have now, the Joe Dispensas, the science, and the Greg Bradens, and all of the science that says...
Even those people
right.
take time.
Right.
They don't always heal instantaneously, but they'll come back again, and then they'll get better.
That's right.
Exactly.
You want to do some denial and affirmations? Let's go. So, yeah, exactly. So I'm just saying it because she could have had another story we could have said, and they would have said, I heard this statement, I clicked, and I immediately healed. But she didn't have to. She was already healed. She just had to do this for a little longer, her believing. She had to believe, when she says this, she believes she is going to get better. So she believes, as we all do, that there's a process at times, and that if I just do this long enough, I'll heal myself.
You can go online and listen to her reading about that.
She
They
does
have
the
it.
web
Myrtle
stuff.
Fillmore. They have the same lady that did Emma Curtis Hopkins. If you want.
It's like you'll go, that sounds like Emma. So affirmative prayer, I thought we'd get into that. Affirmative prayer is understood in unity as the highest form of creative thought. It includes the release of negative thoughts and holding in mind statements of spiritual truth. Now, interesting, we don't hold anything, in our teaching. It's the same thing, but we don't really hold a thought or throw a thought out. We become the very thing that we desire. So it's all verbiage. It doesn't mean that they didn't mean that too. Unity teaches the use of meditation and prayer, check, as a way to experience the presence of God, heighten the awareness of truth, and thereby transform our lives. Prayer is valuable, I love this. Prayer is valuable not because it alters the circumstances and the conditions of your life, but because it alters you. Yeah. Accomplishment, founded Unity and the Unity Christian School. See, they call it Unity Christian School. Lessons in Truth now this is the one that Rita, it's Katie, isn't it? Katie or Katie? Katie is published as the first Unity book. Now, one thing about Charles was thought that was lovely that she had all that prayer, but he didn't back her. And I mean, he supported her, but he didn't back her. He didn't go, yeah, I feel the healing too. He didn't feel that at all because he needed to have what? Science and demonstration. He needed science. So he went the other way and was kind of like an Ernest Holmes, started studying everything that he could get his hands on, right? Unity, Lessons in Truth by Emily Caddis publishes the first Unity book. Over the years, it's been translated into 11 languages, is published in Braille, and sells more than 1.6 million copies. Their son, and then they have grandkids, it's been a while, but they're really into the business of spiritual. I mean, running publishing things and in the schools and the incredible outreach that they do is just amazing, Unity founders Charles and Myrtle Fillmore became, this is my favorite, vegetarians in the 1890s, and their views on vegetarian began surfacing in public and getting controversy too. As early as 1903, and this is what he said. In those earlier teachings, Charles expressed his understanding of a person's diet and the important connectivity it has to spirituality, saying cell regeneration is aided by consuming food of the highest and purest character. For me, though, he got a little bit over, they'd have picnics, and big picnics. No beef allowed. Take your beef into another place. They got very fundamental about it. Now I checked they were taking me through the virtual. I'm like staring in their kitchen to see what they had in there. Ham slice, yeah, bacon. Things happening over there. Now I can go to the Unity. Okay. Here's something that I added in for us too. Reverend Coleman testimony. This is interesting. African American. After being told she only had 6 months to live, a young African American woman named Johnny Coleman traveled from Chicago to Unity Village, Missouri, seeking answers. Not only would she, I just got goosebumps. Not only would she discover that perfect health was her birthright, as natural as the air she breathed, she would enroll in seminary, become an ordained Unity minister, and break racial and gender barriers along the way to forge a mega ministry worthy of her title as New Thought Pioneer. So not only she loved what Myrtle said, if Myrtle can do it, I can do it. Remember we were talking about that. You look at something, you go, if they can do it, I can do it, right? So anyway, I just thought during our wonderful Black Lives Matter and everything that's going on, it's nice to know that back that long ago, right? Tithing, let's talk about that for a minute. They are the king and queen of tithing. Who's our girl? Edwin Gaines, if you've ever, we had a couple, we love her. You've been to a seminar, a whole retreat of hers. And just the queen of tithing. But I just thought I'd give you a little bit, because they believe in a whole bunch of things. The unity as a movement, and that you need to support it because we have a movement that's going to carry on. Reflect for a moment on the difference unity has made in your life. This is what part of their little spiel. Think about the passion, excitement, and inspiration you receive through our teachings and through our spiritual community. Others, like you, long for the comfort of a spiritual path and for spiritual communities to support them. Consider the difference unity teaching and thriving unity spiritual communities can make for those who are seeking. Does it inspire you to support our unity movement? Because what they're telling you is why you should tithe, just not or why you should give for unity. So Charles Fillmore taught, I love this. Tithing establishes a method in giving and brings into the consciousness a sense of order and fitness that will be manifested in one's outer life and affairs as increased efficiency and great prosperity. But they're really known for healing and their abundance. They take no prisoners. They are, they did Unity Village, the old saying is that they had a meeting, and he said, I'm going to build an entire community. They have a forest there. They have a forest, by the way, that allowed no hunting when they owned it. And now it's all of these wonderful animals and birds that now are there. But he said, he goes, here, Charles, here, Charlie, and he threw him a penny. And he said, here you go. There's your building fund. And they all laughed, Charles picked it up, blessed it, and he goes, we're building ourselves a village. So he had that kind of mentality. Dun, dun, dun. I know there's been...
So this was the one that they originally had as land?
Yeah, well, no, it started out as 58 acres, I think, but they started out small. They had a little log cabin, and it's great. Myrtle, I love that little virtual thing. Myrtle, she hated to cook, and so when they built her own house, her and Charles, they built it without a kitchen.
I can't even imagine that.
I built it without a kitchen, and they ate at the mother-in-law's, who was in the property right across the way. Oh, that's fountains. Yeah, it's beautiful, beautiful. Anyway, now it makes me want to go there. But when I went there, I wouldn't even. If somebody said you want to go to Unity Village.
I believe I was there all those times and didn't go.
When were you in Kansas City?
When I went to visit you.
Oh, my family. Oh.
I love Kansas City. They have the best steak ever.
Oh.
So much for the vegetarians.
Yeah. There's nothing like a slaughterhouse and a prayer. Okay.
I remember that steak
Charles
and the barbecue.
Oh my God, wasn't that decadent? Oh, my mama and my auntie. Charles, I'm going, when did you go there with you? Okay, Charles Fillmore quotes, I thought we'd end with a couple of those. It is the childlike mind that finds the kingdom. I might have to use that in my little work. But yeah. Men who accomplish great things in the industrial world are the ones who have faith in the money-producing power of ideas. That's what he also believed in money. He says, money, it's all ideas. So it's kind of like what they were talking about today. You know, you can't be afraid, or Reverend Walt today got very emotional when he's thinking about the tithing and just the fear. Tithing is giving, it's circulation. But they believe in the 10%, but he talks in tithing, he doesn't talk in percentage. We increase whatever we praise.
Emma Curtis.
Yep. This is a big one. Edwin Gaines uses it a lot. And that pees off people when you say that. Because they go, that's really not very nice. What about the people? But if you go beyond the words, you know what it's saying. It's saying that our birthright is from the inheritance of Spirit itself. So if there's ever going to be a sin, it's not just claiming it. And they say, well, you know, I have this in most classes. I don't have it as much anymore. We don't have that as much anymore. But they go, well, what about the poor people that live in, you know, if you're in a big group, they'll always do that. And I always say, well, then go tell them. Go tell them who they are. Let's get in there. I've gone in the hood, told them who they are, and they were like wanting to throw things at me, you know. I mean, you know, did you know how valuable you are? Do you know that? And they're like, don't be talking that shit to me. And I said, no, I'm going to continue to talk this shit to you because it's so great. And then eventually they either walk out or they think that they're great. Myrtle Fillmore's quotes, you do not have a problem except the one that is in your own mind, and you put it there. You know what I love about the last 7 weeks? They were like not afraid. They didn't try to candy coat it and to take care of everybody and stand up in front of everybody and go, I just know I'm going to make somebody mad. They just knew automatically they were going to. I am a child of God, and therefore I do not inherit sickness. Nature is surely the glorified face of God. Ugh, I love it. Keep on praying for faith. It is through prayer that you develop all your wonderful qualities of the soul. Assignment. Oh. Rita added that one. I didn't have it in my stuff. So next week, there you go. That's it. This has been really fun going through all these people. Oh. Rob will be over there going like this. The best one was Rob. I'm going to tell a Rob story. So I showed a book. I forgot what it was from Tom. It's not this one. And he goes like this. Like that. And I gave it to Melissa, I think it was, and showed her. It was the Tom Sanner book. It was like anyway, it was a big book. And so afterwards he said, when I do that, I mean, can you hold it up? He's going like this. I'm going, well, I don't know why he wants it now, and he's like, when I say that, I want you to hold it up so I can show it to the people on camera. So you guys ready for next week? We better send out a reminder.
If you want to be registered for this class, please give me No, you haven't.
Yeah, Ron.
$45.
Next week.
No, you haven't. The only person that's paid right now is Melissa and DJ. Oh, you did it already? Okay. All right. Right. Oh, you paid for the class, just the 45, yeah.
Just the thing at the end. So anyway, it's been fun, you guys. Now it's hot in here. Rita turned down the AC, and Melissa's dropping out, and we're all. I go, I'm really excited about this. I look over.
We finished that other class on March 18th, and I sent the things in probably 2 weeks later, and we just got them. Isn't that odd?
Just remember the Prince of Tides, Melissa, the Prince of Tides. That's right. And we know she couldn't win for Yentl because she was a woman. So anyway. I'm going to do my spiritual mind treatment as Barbara Streisand. No, I'm just kidding. So, can you imagine? Yes, you probably could with me. So let's just take a moment to just enjoy the laughter, enjoy Barbara as God. So what I know in this moment is that I can feel and accept and just bathe in the energy and recognize that there's only one thing ever going on, and that is spirit. It doesn't matter if it's unity, it doesn't matter divine science, it doesn't matter whatever it is only one thing happening, and that is spirit moving through and as everything. And what I know about tonight, and I know about the last 7 weeks, is that spirit has definitely showed up here in this wonderful room and online. And I am so grateful for the participation, for the involvement that each and every one of us has had through these weeks up to this very divine moment that has never happened before. So I know that as we recognize it, embrace it, and know that everything is good, that everything is the absolute, that everything is first cause, I know that each and every one of us has that to go forward from this moment to the next moment, to our wonderful little bed, the lullaby of spirit that will just allow us to go into a beautiful, beautiful dream state. So from that point, I just say thank you, thank you, thank you. I thank Rob for his endless, endless service to allow this to go out into the world, not just this, but all of the live streaming. So I just say thank you. I release it. I let it go, as together we say. And so it is.